In this episode of RealHomeRecording.com, we are looking at the new Acustica audio smoke plugin. This is an emulation of Retro Instruments hardware, allegedly, namely their reissue of the gate stay level compressor, along with a Pultec emulation improvement, we'll say. And in this video, I'm going to look at the user manual because everybody else looked at the plugin, and I'll do that too. But I want to do what the others aren't, which is highlight the important sections of the user manual so that when I go over the plugin next week, you guys know what I'm talking about. As noted right here, if you don't want the equalizer, you can buy the compressor separately so you can save some money. But if you're a fan of Pultec style equalizers, I recommend at least trying it out to see if you might want it for your own mixes. So here are the recommended computer specs and the minimum as well. Now they say Windows 10, but I'm actually using a Windows 7 machine and it works perfectly fine. As with all Acustica audio plugin suites, you can choose between the normal plugins that have a higher latency or the ZL plugins that reduce the latency but have a higher CPU hit. Like many plugins that are based off of audio hardware, the optimal signal level is around -18 decibels RMS, which on a VU meter would be around 0. The hardware that the Smoke Stereo EQ was sampled from, as I said earlier, was inspired by Pultec equalizers. Now they put purple on here because they can't say Pultec, but I can say Pultec. But unlike the classic and standard tube EQ in the pro audio industry, this model incorporates more high frequency boost frequencies and is a true stereo EQ featuring a true passive EQ circuit that can create rich and musical EQ curves with a distinctive sound thanks to its custom amplifiers and transformers. So for this next part, I'm going to flip back and forth between the actual plugin and the user manual. Starting off with the high pass models, you can choose between HP1, which is a sampling of the hardware, which again is a Retro Instruments 2A3 dual program equalizer. Or under HP2, we have a lot more cutoff frequencies to choose from. And what this is great for is when you want to boost the low end, for example, a kick drum, but you don't want it to sound muddy. Now the neat thing is this EQ also comes with a low pass filter, so you can cut off the high end wherever you want. And in LP1 mode, you can choose between 11 kilohertz and 22 kilohertz. Or in LP2 mode, you have a lot more cutoff choices. Another newer feature for Acustica audio plugins is oversampling. So if you're mixing with a 44.1 kilohertz or 48 kilohertz project, you may want to try 8x, or if your computer can handle it, 16x. It's very cool that they put them in there. Right underneath the oversampling switch are our preamps. And from my understanding, the 5-line inputs are from a vintage 1960s Gatesway tube mixing console. I believe the mic preamps are also from that same console. And then if you change it to CUST, which I believe is shorthand for custom, EST stands for Equalizer Stereo, CMP is the compressor, and then PM1 and 2 are from a 500 series microphone preamp, 2 different ones, and then PST is a 500 series stereo microphone preamp. So if you want the sound of this equalizer, put it on EST. Now if you go to the standalone equalizer, there's also a mid-side mode, which comes in handy especially during mastering. And on the other side of that is the control link so that you don't have to match your settings. If you watch, see both of the boost knobs are the same, and if I turn that off, now just the one that I'm moving moves. Now, of course, if you forget to put that on, okay, it does now go to where it should be. Good. It should be noted that channel A is the left channel and channel B is the right channel. Just like the Pultec EQs, there is a Q, aka bandwidth control, counterclockwise. By default, it is on the narrowest setting at 0, and then as you go fully clockwise towards 10, the bandwidth widens. It's worth noting that in order to actually enable the equalizer, you have to click the switch underneath channel A or channel B. And then once this LED is lit, it's activated. Moving on to the compressor, let's read it. The Smoke Comp is a plug-in version of one of the most legendary variable mu tube dynamic processors from 1956. Actually, this plug-in version also includes features from the improved recent reissue built by a USA manufacturer that added 6 release settings and 3 different modes of operation. Single, which is super smooth for bass tracks, double is ideal for most sources, and triple allows you to limit fast transient waveforms while maintaining great musicality. Okay, the user manual goes on, plus the Smoke Comp adds classic tone and massive sound immediately thanks to the preamp emulation, which perfectly embodies its tube character. Now, you have to make sure you turn the preamp on first. Going down to controls. Number 1 is the bypass switch. Number 2 is preamp. So there you go. Preamp knob on. Compressor modes. Single for bass guitar is recommended. Double for most sources. And triple is for fast transients. Now here's a cool one. Number 4. Harmonics. It allows you to boost the harmonic content and linear material of the preamp. So you could just not have any compression on this. Just use the preamp and go crank, or however it would sound. Input gain and output gain. These knobs right here. We also have the wet dry knob, the mix control. And then here is a control I still don't understand. Let's read it together. Number 8 right here. The SOA Control. Okay? An acronym derived from Safe Operating Area. This is a fine-tuning control for the threshold to expand the headroom and to find the sweet spot of the compressor comfort zone. An overflow LED has been added to this control. This warns about possible clipping and unpredictable behavior due to excessive input levels to the compressor. So, I guess that here's the overlamp. So, I'm going to play with this in the meantime, but this control, I believe, is just as important as the input and output knobs. The gain reduction meter is important, but I would use your ears. Number 10 is the filter. This control sets the cut frequency of a very gentle one-pole high-pass filter inserted in the side chain path. Generally, the higher the frequency, the smaller the amount of gain reduction, since less of the low frequencies will be affecting the compressor action. In the leftmost position, labeled 0, the filter is bypassed. Okay, so by default, this is bypassed, and it's variable, which is very nice. And yeah, typically if you were using this on a mix or maybe even one of the bass instruments, you may want to use this. Actually, I recommend using this just to hear the difference between using it and not using it. Awesome addition. I don't know if this is a part of the original hardware, but yeah, great feature to have. And then finally, the recovery setting, aka release. And I believe, yeah, see, This is not variable. There's just a few different settings, which I believe that's how the real hardware is as well. Counterclockwise is a slow release, and fully clockwise is the fastest release setting. Okay, everybody, so that's about it for the user manual. Very cool little collection of plugins. I will definitely be checking these out in a very near future video. But for right now, I just wanted to show the plugin off. You can try it out for yourself. I believe Acustica Audio still does 30-day free trials for all their new plugins and their old ones as well. They have a very, very gracious trial period, I must say. Anyway, thank you all for watching. This has been Adam for RealHomeRecording.com.